call this meeting to order. The City of Nacogdoches Zoning Board of Adjustments, August 18th, 2022. If you will rise with me, we will say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Chairman, if you'll read agenda item number 3, please.
Public service recognition to honor Commissioner service to the citizens of Nacogdoches.
All right, thank you. So Commissioner Ed Poole is rolling off of the commission. He's served for over 10 years, since 2011. So we wanted to thank Mr. Poole for his service by presenting him with a service plaque just for outstanding service to the citizens of Nacogdoches. And then we'll be swearing in Rhonda Ward, our new board member. So Ed, if you'll step down and we'll present you with your plaque. And Juan, you mind taking a picture? We'll put it on the website. And we'll email it to you too. All right. I told you, Ron. Thank you so much. All right. All right, and you are?
I'm retired.
You're retired. All right. Until next time.
Dang
All right. So the next item is Administrative Statement of Officer, and Oath of Office for newly appointed Zoning Board of Adjustment members. And I did notice on the agenda it says Planning and Zoning Commission. That's a typo. We do apologize for that because we just actually swore in some new P&Z members too. So Rhonda Ward, if you'll stand up here, Juan is going to issue the Statement of Officer and Oath of Office.
We'll start off with the statement of officer, and then we'll do the oath of office.
Okay.
So I state your name.
I, Rhonda Ward,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I have not directly or indirectly paid,
that I have not directly or indirectly paid,
offered or promised to pay,
offered or promised to pay,
contributed or promised to contribute
contributed or promised to contribute
any money or thing of value,
any money or thing of value,
or promised any public office or employment
or promised any public office or employment
for the giving or withholding of a vote
for the giving or withholding of a vote
at the election at which I was elected,
at the election of which I was elected,
or as a reward
or as a reward
to secure my appointment or confirmation,
to secure my appointment or confirmation,
whichever the case may be, so help me God.
whichever the case may be, so help me God.
Okay, and then now we'll do the oath of office.
Do I have to keep my hand up?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So I state your name.
I, Rhonda Ward,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office
that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office
of the Zoning Board of Adjustment
of the Zoning Board of Adjustment
of the state of
of the
Texas,
state of Texas,
and will, to the best of my ability,
and will to the best of my ability
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution and the laws
the Constitution and the laws
of the United States and of the state.
of the United States and of the state,
So help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations.
Okay. I feel like I've just gone to the military or something.
Do you want to take a seat? We're going to
Oh,
switch you
Okay.
out. And then we'll rearrange once we do the chair and vice chair. All right. All right, so Ed Poole was our chair, and Marianne Bentley is our vice chair. I did speak to Marianne. She wasn't able to attend, but she still would like to maintain her current position as vice chair. So at this time, we'll appoint a new chair, and what we'll do is we'll go down the dais, and you guys will submit your recommendations or nominations, and then we'll put it to a vote. So, Sarah, you want to go first? You nominate for chair?
I nominate Olivia.
All right. Mr. Wheeler?
Did she say she wanted to keep it, Mary?
Marianne wants to keep her vice chair position, and so we need to replace the chair. Ed Poole was our chair, and he rolled off the board, and so now we need to appoint a new chair. You can nominate yourself too if you would like to serve as.
Anybody's fine with me.
I know.
Okay. All right, Rhonda.
I nominate Olivia Kiersey.
All right, George.
I think I will too.
Olivia. I think I hear
I
a
forfeit.
consensus.
I will nominate myself, thank you.
All right, all in favor of Olivia Kritzy serving as chair?
That's
Aye.
who I've met.
All right, thank you. Congratulations, Olivia. Do you mind switching chairs with Rhonda?
Started to say, I want to bet that is.
And I'll put your name.
Okay. We're gonna play it up for you. Okay, musical name tag.
Okay, now we're cooking with oil.
Oh.
Okay.
This is tough.
All right. Olivia, if you want to move on to agenda item number 6, consent agenda approval of the minutes.
Absolutely, okay. Okay, consent agenda. Item A, approval of minutes. Consider approval of minutes from the May 19th, 2022 Zoning Board of Adjustments meeting. And the minutes are behind our agenda, listed as hybrid meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve the minutes from May 19th, 2022.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. And we'll move to the regular agenda for a public hearing. So our public hearing is to consider a request for a variance of the zoning ordinance, section 118-202-1B, for the expansion of a non-conforming single-family structure for Lot 42C, City Block 45, located at 1117 Ferguson Street. This request has been submitted by Pat Casey, case file ZBA 2022-04.
All right, thank you, Chair. Elena Helton, City Planner. This is a 6,000 square foot lot developed with a 1,300 square foot single-family residence constructed in 1941. The subject property is located on the west side of Ferguson, approximately 500 feet south of Bailey Avenue. The specific request that you're hearing this evening is for a variance from the literal enforcement of the zoning ordinance, which may be requested whenever owing to exceptional and extraordinary conditions. The literal enforcement of the provisions of the zoning ordinance will result in an unnecessary hardship in the development of the property. So I just want to give a little bit of background information about what is a non-conforming structure. And so essentially the applicant has requested to modify or expand a legal non-conforming structure. And the zoning ordinance defines non-conformity as a situation that occurs when the city takes action which transforms a previously conforming structure in terms of the city's previous codes or minimum requirements of the zoning ordinance, so that the structure is then deemed legal non-conforming because of the changes that the city made. In other words, if you have an existing structure that complied with the code whenever it was built, but because of city action, it no longer complies, that's kind of the idea of a non-conformity. So it's at no fault of the owner or the previous owner, and it's grandfathered in. So they're allowed to continue to use that property for what it was intended for, but then there's limitations on making changes to that structure. And so the zoning ordinance goes on to describe these grandfathered structures as uses that are limited and changes that can be made as far as modifications or expansions. And so if someone wants to modify a structure that meets this definition, they either have to bring the building to 100% compliance with current code, or they can seek a variance from the Zoning Board of Adjustments. So that's why we're here this evening. So that brings us back to the request. Again, the property is zoned actually R4 multifamily, as well as the properties immediately to the north and the south. Property to the east across Ferguson is zoned medical, and the adjacent property to the west is zoned B2 general business. The existing land uses in the area are predominantly single-family residential development, with the exception of a vacant nursing home to the north on the east side of Ferguson Street. This residential structure was built in 1941. Again, however, the city didn't adopt a zoning ordinance until 1971. And there are a couple of other homes in the area that were also built in the 1940s, but predominantly the majority of the development in this area is from the 1970s. So this is a unique circumstance that applies to this property and doesn't apply generally to other properties in the area. All Right. So the reason that this property is not compliant is that all residential districts, including single-family, duplex, and R4, require a minimum side yard building setback of 6 feet. And this property was built closer to that side property line than our current code allows. And so we'll look at that in just a minute. So the existing structure was built 3.5 feet away from the northern property boundary, which encroaches 2.5 feet into that 6-foot setback that we just talked about. So that's what really makes this property non-conforming. It's not the land use, it's not any other kind of gross improvement. It's just 2.5 building encroachment. The applicant is requesting to expand the residence by constructing approximately 576 square foot addition. Primarily, it's going to be living area with a small garage, and that's going to be located on the west side of the building to the rear of the property. So the addition isn't increasing the degree of the nonconformity. It's not putting that building closer to that property line. It's actually located on the other side, and the addition will meet all of our current building setbacks and building codes. So this doesn't exasperate the nonconformity. The R4 multifamily district actually has a building setback in the rear of 10 feet, and they're proposing 13, so this is actually inside that rear building setback. And the applicant actually owns property right across the street. That's where they live now, but the intent is, once this addition is complete, for this to be their primary residence, and then the other property will become future rental property or for sale, but this is intended to be future primary residence for the applicant. This is a photo of the subject property, and then we'll show you some photos, just a minute, of the surrounding properties. These are just some character photos of some of that single-family development that we talked about located along Ferguson Street. You know, the subject property is consistent with those other land uses too. These are some other residences to the east across Ferguson that are also owned by the applicant. And this is image of that vacant nursing home just to the north. So primarily residential with the exception of this vacant commercial property. Staff did send we mailed 12 notices to property owners within the 200-foot buffer area. We didn't receive any written responses. We did have a neighbor come by the office and visit with us, and they just had general questions, but once we explained the request, they didn't have any concerns or issues with what the applicant was proposing. All right, the conditions for approval are outlined on your screen, and we did go through those in the staff report, but I'll cover them briefly in the presentation as well. Generally, the purpose of the comprehensive plan and zoning ordinance is to provide for future orderly and efficient development. And so this request meets that criteria. It doesn't, again, increase or exasperate the nonconformity of the structure. It's also in line with the existing zoning and the land uses in this area, so we find that it's compliant with the comprehensive plan and the zoning code. Number two, we don't find that the addition will substantially or permanently injure the adjacent properties because essentially it's just in addition to an existing single-family development, which matches the other development pattern in the area. And there's no changes to the access or utilities or any other physical improvements. For number three, we don't find that the request is going to adversely affect health, safety, or general welfare because the addition will meet all of our building codes, and including building separation from adjacent properties. Additionally, number four, this, again, is not going to authorize any other use than what's allowed in that district. Single family is a permitted use in the R4 zoning district. And for number 5 and 6, again, this home was built in 1941, 30 years before we even had zoning. So it's not a self-created hardship, and it is a unique circumstance in that this home is much older than several of the other homes in the area. And so this is a general condition that applies to the entire neighborhood. And so with that, I'll conclude staff's presentation. The applicant is in attendance if the board should have any questions, and then, so now I'll open it up to questions from the board. Thank you. And this item is scheduled for a public hearing. All right.
Okay.
Would the board like to hear from the applicant at this time or open up the public hearing for public comment?
We will hear from the applicant.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you? How's everybody doing today?
Good.
Any other questions beyond what she said? She really covered most of what's going on, but I can be glad to answer some more if we have any.
Does the board have any questions for Mr. Casey?
I really don't.
No? Okay. Do you have any additional comments?
No, other than that, I think I'm good.
Okay. Then we're good.
That's it, okay.
Thank you.
very much.
And we'll now open up for public comment.
There's no one here.
No one's here. Okay. Then our public comment will conclude. All right. Okay.
Any additional questions from the board?
Any questions for Ms. Hilton?
Okay.
No? All right. Then I will entertain a motion, please.
I'm making a move to be Denise. Adjourn.
I'll take that one in a second. May I have a motion?
I guess I'll make a motion that we grant the variance to 1117 Ferguson Street. Was that the address?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. I have a motion from Commissioner Ward. May I have a second?
I will second.
A second from Commissioner Jones. First and second. Is there any conversation? Any additional comment? No? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
All those opposed? The variance is granted. Okay, Ms. Hilton?
The last item is adjourned, so Olivia, I think it's 4:19, if you want to adjourn us.
We are adjourned at 4:19. Thank you.